Mr. Steve Jones.
What's going on? Great to be with you. It's an interesting day because the unexpected happened, and it was yesterday. Tony Bennett at Virginia is having a press conference today. He is retiring. There has been no word yet on what Virginia is going to do with the head coaching job. The only thing that at least I've heard through the grapevine is that it's not health related or anything else. In other words, the bottom line is, now he won't be able to say this, I think, straight out, but there is a point where, do you enjoy going to your job? The most likely option, by the way, is associate head coach Ron Sanchez, who was the head coach at Charlotte before coming back to Charlottesville. And then Jason Williford's been on the staff for a long time at Virginia. Those are the two options. But their opening game is going to be Wednesday, November 6th. So you're talking about Penn State opens up on the 4th, so it's 2 weeks from Monday. So Penn State's, 17 days away? So they're 19 days away from their opener. And he announces this. Look, with everything that goes on, I don't think it is a coincidence. I realize age plays a role as well. But Roy Williams is no longer involved. Mike Krzyzewski's no longer involved. Okay? Nick Saban's no longer involved. Jay Wright's no longer involved. Tony Bennett is now going to be no longer involved. Age does play a role, especially Krzyzewski, Williams, and Saban, all in their 70s when they retired, but not for Jay Wright and Tony Bennett. Jay's in his 60s. Tony Bennett's in his 50s. He's 55 years old. I don't think the timing is coincidental in today's landscape. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with today's landscape, but at the same time, it does bring a different pressure to the job. Tony Bennett always has been a guy that would recruit guys. He'd have a lot of guys stay 3-4 years with him. He really had it going the right way as to how he would replenish his roster when he needed to. And he ended up winning the national championship in 2019 after the UMBC victory over his team in 2018. He won 6 ACC regular season titles. He won a couple of ACC tournaments. He had success. Not against Penn State. He only coached against Penn State once at Virginia. Penn State won the game down in Charlottesville. I was a witness at John Paul Jones Arena. Nice arena, by the way. But if you do not enjoy going into your job and you have made the kind of coin that Tony Bennett has made in his lifetime, he's been well compensated. But if you're not enjoying it and you look around and go, do I need to keep doing this? Do I need to keep going into the transfer portal? Do I need to keep dealing with NIL? Do I have to keep, you know what I mean? Those things that in a different era, a completely different era, Joe Paterno was always asked to help out with fundraising, make phone calls, things like that, which he always did. Right? And of course, people would say, "Hey, why don't you do this? Why don't you try that? Why don't you run this play?" And that's where he came up with the line, "I like your dollars, not your 2 cents." But the number of times, if I had $10 for every time he said to me, privately, in a private moment, he says, "Steve, I wish I could just coach." In other words, we'd sit down to do a talk show segment, or we'd sit down to do a pregame show or whatever, and we'd chit-chat just a little bit. Not long, but just a little bit, right? He'd ask how I was doing. I'd say, well, how you doing? You hanging in there? He goes, Steve, I wish I could just coach. I heard that so often because that's why he got into the profession. Absolutely. I always feel like when I'm looking at coaches on a practice floor or on a practice field, I always feel like for them, that's their sanctuary, where they can get out there and just coach, teach, instruct, try a few things, and they don't have to worry about the phone, don't have to worry about Zoom, don't have to worry at that point about meetings, things like that. And I don't care who it is. I don't care if it was Russ Rose, Shar, Joe, right? Obi, James, right? Mike, Pat, Jim Ferry. It didn't matter, right? Eddie, Jerry. Now they're from a different era, but you're talking about the more recent coaches, like Katie Schumacher and LB and Erica Dombach, who's transitioned from one to the other, right? Where you have to deal with all of this. You have to deal with NIL. You have to deal with the transfer portal. It's so different. And people ask sometimes, well, the athletes are different today. I don't think the athletes are different today. No, I think the people around them are different today. Right. Yeah. And I'm not going, and that's not me labeling parents. No. I'm saying the people around them, because it's not.
More people are getting in their ears.
Right. And it's not easy to deal with.
Right.
And that's why James has adapted so beautifully to this. He understands it. He knows what he needs to do. Mike Rhodes. Mike's done this a certain way forever. Mike's adapted beautifully to this. Doesn't mean it's perfect, but you do one of two things. You either adapt or you die. And if you don't enjoy, first of all, you're in sports. Every time I give out a project in class, I always tell them at the end of the presentation, remember you're doing sports, have fun with it. I said, I did not send you to cover the Israeli war. I didn't send you to Ukraine. I said, you're covering sports. Sports are meant to be fun. Well, in these sports are meant to be fun, it's become such a business that for somebody like Tony Bennett, and look, that game down in Charlottesville is the only time I've ever been around him. I know he was with his dad for a little bit at Wisconsin after he left Wisconsin Green Bay, but so I don't know him at all. To say I know him would be are you kidding me? Right. Have you ever talked to him? Yes. Do you know him? Nope. Okay. Right. So I don't know him. Right. I know people who are around him, and actually do know him somewhat, but so I don't know what he's thinking or how tough this was. You'd have to be around him a lot to know what he's dealing with. It just watching him on the sideline the last couple of years, did he look like he was enjoying himself in any way, shape, or form? Even in victory? See, it's in victory. When you look at somebody in victory and there's not at least a glint of satisfaction. Now, you're trying to be classy toward the other team. Sure. Always remember, hey, because you've stood in their shoes how many times in your lifetime. But once you break away from that, it's just your team. Is there a joy to it? If there's no joy in victory, that you're already now worried about the next phone call you might get Hey, by the way, my guy wants more NIL money. You don't think that doesn't happen after games?
Oh, sure.
You don't think this doesn't happen where it does? All of a sudden the coach gets the phone call at, 6:30 in the morning. Kid's coming off a big game. I think he needs more NIL to stay, coach. That you can't even enjoy it. You can't enjoy it. The life is sucked out of it because of greed. So we'll see what he has to say today in Charlottesville. I'm sure he will just say, hey, he felt it was time and the whole thing. I'm sure he'll say all of that. But you wonder how much today's landscape played a role in it and whether he was enjoying his job. I mean, there are a bunch of you out there that don't enjoy your jobs, but you can't leave your job because you need to keep paying the bills. I got that. He's in a position where maybe he wasn't enjoying his job and he has enough put away where he can look around and go, you know what? I've had enough of this. And he's fine. So he's in that rare position where he can call his own shot. And it's because they just went through ACC Media Days, last week. Mm-hmm. He was there. And he was asked about Jay Wright. His quote was, I got to call Jay Wright and see what he says, right? I've always have said when you're doing this, you're in this profession, whether you agree how it's going or not, you have to be true to yourself and really look at it and say, who am I? Can I operate how I want? Can I be successful enough? And you get to choose if you want to be a part of it or not. Well, we found out yesterday he didn't want to be a part of it. It says, and when you feel it's time, like Jay did, like Coach K, maybe Coach Saban, it's their choice. And you can sit here and complain and gripe, or you have a decision to make. Either you try to do it in your own way, or you get to make that decision. So I think Jay Wright probably foresaw where this was going. It'll be better whenever there's regulations. Is that 3 years, 5 years? Who knows? But if it's not, those are the decisions that every man has to make when it's time. Well, he made that decision. It's time. And the NCAA desperately needs regulation. College basketball needs regulation. College football needs it. We all know it. It needs a structure that goes around it. Because I've said that Charlie Baker, the former governor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, who knows politics, I don't know how much he knows about running the NCAA. I'm still trying to figure that out. But he knows politics. So he knows how to go to Capitol Hill. He knows who to talk to. He not only knows who to talk to, he knows how to talk to them. Okay? The NCAA needs an antitrust exemption like you see in other sports. That then opens the door to collective bargaining. Now, they have to collectively bargain with a group of football players. They have to collectively bargain with basketball, like separate groups. I don't know. Don't know how that goes. But there needs to be structure on scholarships. There needs to be structure on money. There needs to be structure on movement. There needs to be structure on postseason. Okay? All those things you need to have structure on. I think there's a need now for, contracts. Right?
Yeah, I agree.
That you sit down and you have a contract. And in that contract, you are obligated, on your part, because A, you're going to get money. So how much money will you get should be in the contract. Okay? What the expectations are in terms of attendance at weight training, attendance at speed training, attendance at practice, and games, which, by the way, would include bowl games because they count. If it's on the record, it's part of the season. It includes NIT or the Las Vegas tournament or whatever it happens to be, and not the NCAA tournament, postseason. If it's written down there, okay, it doesn't mean that people can't go, gee, I feel a twinge, I can't play.
Oh, yeah.
All right. I'm just saying, right?
Sure.
You know, that stuff you can't find, the unimpressive x-rays? Right?
Yeah.
You're hurt? You know, we did the x-rays, MRIs, things like that. I mean, there are very few people healthier than you. So you're going to need, I think, eventually that kind of structure because that's the direction everything has morphed in. When the settlement is put together on April 7th and signed, sealed, and delivered on April 7th, all those changes we've seen in a short period of time, now a huge change, the money part of it. Okay? Structure on NIL can be included in collective bargaining. All right? Structure on NIL, where it's not the Wild West, because of the antitrust exemption, you would be allowed to structure NIL. Now, you know, people like you will always make sure they're greasing palms, but you know, it's just, you know, I can tell by the cut of your clothes you're a wheeler and dealer. But I mean, that's what it's going to have to come to. This idea, right? And you're going to have to include the academic part in these contracts too, because look, you're going to have to A, stay eligible, but B, let's face it, 97% aren't going to the pros in football.
Right.
97, 98% aren't going pro in basketball, and we're not even getting into the other sports. Okay?
Basketball's got the percentage. It's pretty high, I think, above all.
Well, you're talking about the NBA, but you can go to Europe, make some money. You can go to Japan, make some money. You know, not a lot, but you could make some money going to Europe, some money going to Uruguay, some money going to Japan. You know, all over the place. Yeah, okay, so you know, like Italy's part of Europe.
I did know that.
I mean, after the deal yesterday about not even knowing what state you grew up in.
Part of Europe. Didn't know that. Didn't know France was part of Europe. Yep, I was aware.
I grew up in Elmira, New York.
I did.
And then, actually, I grew up in Pottsville.
Yeah, that was a.
I mean, you didn't even get the state right. Oh, God.
Spent a lot of summers in Elmira. I did not grow up.
I grew up in a town on the Massachusetts border, but I knew I grew up in Connecticut. What is your deal?
Mine's not even on the New York border. Mine's in the eastern part of the state.
My goodness. I mean, I can smell the rum and the coffee right now. What are you doing?
Mine has a brewery that's worldwide known.
Yeah. You always went over there every day. You for samples. All right, so
they actually would allow you under the age of 18 to take that tour, and then they'd say, "Here's a birch beer and here's some ice cream." Yeah, or under the age of 21, I guess it'd be. But yeah, so they would allow you to take the tour, absolutely. But the other part of it, no, not so much. That's why they had birch beer and ice cream.
Unreal. Jeez.
Yeah, it's highly recommended. Anybody listen to the tour is incredible. Absolutely awesome. Works for all 6 generations. If you're under 21, don't try it. I'm warning you right now.
Yeah, as somebody who's obviously tried it several times. Can I get some samples? Get out of here.
Well, he spoke at our high school graduation. He invited us for a tour. So that was how we got there. He invited us for the tour a couple days before we graduated. Okay. So we took the tour.
I bet you did.
Yeah, he's like, "Okay, boys, there's some birch beer and ice cream for you."
Yeah. Okay. So, but they're going to have to come up with some structure. And look, And look, they should be planning this now. Don't sit and wait.
No.
When the door's open to do this, do it.
Absolutely. And that's the problem with NIL is the stability. Like the structure of the stability. Where is it going to be? And that's where you're allowing these players to say, hey, I'm in a red shirt. Not going to play this year.
But there's certain cases. Let's take, for example, Eric Gentry of USC. Yeah. Concussions are the reason why he's got. Well, of course he should redshirt. Bear Alexander doesn't have that. He's just doing it for selfish reasons.
Yeah, I agree.
Right? So, not every case is the same. Not every case is the same. But there needs to be a structure in place, and the NCAA needs to be working on that structure now. James is right. They're going to have to hire somebody that is primarily assigned to football but can handle everybody else, that understands contracts. In other words, you need to hire somebody that was within the NFL structure. That understands
contracts.
And what to do and how to do it.
Yep.
And they need to hire that person.
Yeah. It's a big reason why these players in the NFL hire agents. It's not only because they're getting a bigger contract. They have that guy that's going to go through that contract with the X's and O's and say, hey, here's what I don't like, here's what I like, here's where you're getting, the raw deal, here's where you're getting the great deal. And that's the big part.
Well, right now these players do have agents.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right? They do have agents.
Yeah. And it's a big reason why you need them at this point.
So you need to have somebody on your end,
absolutely,
knowing that there's going to be anywhere from $20 to $23 million initially. I think there's going to be a 4% escalator in this when it's all said and done, that can handle all this.
Absolutely.
And knows how to do it. You got 20 to 23 million. You have to be able to, quote, do it right. And when there's money handed out, it can't be handshake deals. And
yep, I agree.
And the letter of intent, by the way, is going by the boards.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's where we are. And it started. The conversation started with Tony Bennett. As fun a baseball game as I watched last night, if you were a Yankee fan, it wasn't fun. If you're just a sports fan, but if you're just a sports fan, after I was done at the field last night, I was watching some of the game. Yeah, I'm watching the game. Roger comes up to me. Are you all right? I said, yeah, Roger, I'm watching the game. Like, just it's okay. Excuse me. And, oh, God, Jerry's in the hallway. Singing in the hallway again.
Jerry or Real Deal? I'm thinking it might be Real Deal. We might have blamed the wrong guy. That's all right. He can get blamed anyway.
What's wrong with you? And so when it was over with the show last night, I did drive over to see my granddaughter go through do her gymnastics class. Yeah, I saw the last half hour of it. So I'm driving home and I'm listening to Tom Hamilton on the Indians Network, Guardians, my apologies. And it's right when Clase was in the game. They had a 3-1 lead, and Aaron Judge, for years I've been critical of his postseason play. Well, last night he hit a home run, right, that ties the game up 3-3, and Giancarlo Stanton is having the equivalent of the Barry Bonds, Alex Rodriguez once-in-a-lifetime postseason to go all the duds, right? Well, he's having a once-in-a-lifetime. He's been incredible, puts them in front. I would listen to both of those. So I finally get home, and I turn the game on, and the Yankees push across another run. It's 5-3. All right, I'll watch the finish of this game. Now, they got Weaver out there former starter, but he's been terrific as in the closing role. And Noel comes to the plate with a runner on second and just absolutely obliterates one. I mean, it's way back. I mean, it was destroyed. And the place is going insane. Wow. Then I saw something in the 10th inning I hadn't seen in a year. A pitcher in the 10th inning going from the windup.
Yeah.
Why? There's no runner on second base. Yes, we're still playing real baseball, which is what we should be doing. Right?
Absolutely.
Now, so the Yankees don't get pushed one across. They get to the bottom of the 10th inning. Right? 2 outs. Clay Holmes, the former State College Spike, on the mound. Right? Hadn't given up a postseason run. And David Fry, who won a game against Detroit in the playoffs. Same story. Not as far as Noel's, but he launched it maybe 10, 12 rows back in the bleachers and left. The place is going insane. That was as fun, either between listening or watching a baseball game, as you're going to see. Because the pendulum swung so dramatic. It's 3-1 Cleveland. Guardians are in control. Class A's had a great year, although Detroit got to him in one of the playoff games. But he's had a great year. It's Aaron Judge. There's a runner on base. Tie game. Wow. Excitement. Absolutely. All right, now I got to shake it off. Giancarlo Stanton comes up. All right, well, you got to keep this thing 3-3. Oh, can't keep it 3-3. He homers. Now it's 4-3. Huh. All right. Then the Yankees push across a run in the top of the 9th inning. That's the insurance run you're begging for. And remember in the movie Major League, it's Cleveland against the Yankees, right? And remember the music playing, that kind of like downtrodden?
Yeah.
Right? And all of a sudden, right, they get the runner on second, or the runner was on first. And Noel I'm talking, Joyeux Noel. I mean, come on. You're like, wow. Right? And so it was like the scene in Major League Two, and Euchre's bombed, and he's like this, right? And all of a sudden the Indians, because they were called the Indians in that movie, start fighting, and he goes, oh, and the Indians have life. Well, suddenly the Guardians had life.
The first time in weeks.
Yeah, in weeks. Right? Like suddenly the Guardians. And the mascot, Youpie. So, which they stole from the Expos, Youpie. So the Guardians last night suddenly have life because the stadium, which was electric, and then Judge tied it, and then Stan homer, they went boom, took the life out of the place. And everybody was just kind of hanging around like, all right, well, we'll stay here to the end. Oh, what? Whoa. And suddenly the crescendo in the crowd. And then in the 10th inning, like, quote, the Guardians, we win. David Fry with another home, third ever walk-off homer in the history of Cleveland baseball in the playoffs. So they play again today. They'll flip-flop. The Mets will go against the Dodgers this afternoon. The Guardians and Yankees play tonight, so they'll flip-flop spots tonight. And the Stars are the Stars, by the way, in the Dodgers series. Ohtani homered last night, scored 4 runs. Mookie Betts homered, drove in 4 runs. I mean, and the Mets have nothing.
Yeah, I have no answer. And I think they're understanding. I think that the Dodgers are understanding the moment right now, I think, in a big way. Hey, you look at what this team has been built for and the disappointments of the past with this team. They won a World Series. I don't want to say I don't count it. It's in the books, but yeah, it's a little different the year they won it. So I think you look obviously now at what they've got. I think this is without question. It's what Major League Baseball is dreaming of in a big way because you have the best player probably in baseball potentially playing in the World Series against potentially
Mm-hmm.
the biggest market in sports. So there's no doubt about it. There's could be a highly rated World Series.
Right. That's if it turns out. I mean, let's give credit to Cleveland. They've got life. The Guardians have life.
Yeah.
Right. We'll see.
It's passionate.
We'll see. I mean, they got next 2 games are guaranteed to be in Cleveland. We'll see how it plays out.
Absolutely.
But again, the Guardians have to play not perfect, but near perfect baseball to win. The Yankees can make more mistakes and win. The Dodgers can make a lot more mistakes than the Mets. The Mets need to, and the Mets have not been helped by the fact that Pete Alonso, who had been really good in the playoffs to this point, has not had a great LCS. That has not helped. I'm not pinning it on one guy because I got a bunch of guys. Because Lindor hadn't done much either.
That's a big part of it right there. And the other part of it with Alonso, they know how to pitch to him at this point. I think they have teams that are clearly seeing where he's not swinging the bat or where he is swinging the bat and not hitting it. I think that's the one flaw in the offseason. He may not be in New York next year.
Right.
Wherever he is, he's going to need to figure out his flaws because that's what's killing this team right now.
Right. So that's that was just a fun, exciting game last night. The Mets-Dodgers game was, if you're a Dodger fan, was a lot of fun. If you're just a baseball fan, you're like, oh, this is dreadful. I did not watch the Saints and Broncos last night. Just decided to watch baseball or whatever and just do that. I did not watch that game last night. So I don't know. It sounds like Denver, just to their credit, on the return of Sean Payton, walked into New Orleans and said, there we go. Let's just take care of business and get out of here. Now, Derek Carr did not play last night. But that is...
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
And I don't think Kamara played last night either.
No, he didn't. Kamara did play. He didn't do much. He didn't get yards.
Spencer Rattler was the quarterback.
Yeah, didn't play. Played okay. Didn't turn it over, I don't think, unless he fumbled. To my knowledge, he didn't throw a pick. I didn't see a lot of the game either. A lot of baseball. I know Hainer came in in mop-up time, threw a touchdown pass.
Yeah, but that's... Yeah.
Yeah, they need Derek Carr. There's no question.
Well, they need a lot of things. Well, they are not playing well right now.
No, they're not. And the way they started the season, you felt like they were a team that could be a potential wild card team too.
Mm-hmm.
And absolutely not.
No, the way they started like a house of fire.
Absolutely. Crushed the Cowboys.
Yeah. Haven't won a game since.
No, you're right. Yeah.
So this is where we are. And Denver, which inexplicably is, 500 now? I mean, good for them.
Yeah, I think they are. Well, now they might be a game above. They're 4-3.
Maybe they're 4-3 now. I mean, good for them. I give them a lot of credit for doing that, because everybody pretty much gave up on Denver. Yeah, Bo Nix has done relatively well. Their defense actually plays pretty well. Their defense is not bad. But, again, I did not see the game last night. I just looked at the stats. The stats didn't look pretty, and especially the final score didn't look pretty, so I moved on. But I did not watch the game last night. By the way, just so you know, Pitt didn't play last night.
Yeah, they did not. Yeah, that was another one of my masterpieces yesterday. That is their next game. I got that one right. They do play Syracuse next. They'll play next Thursday, not this Thursday.
Yesterday was one of the more bizarre performances I've seen by anybody sitting in that chair. You don't know what state you were born in. You got your weeks wrong. Right? Somebody asked you in the hallway whose state I was playing. You gave the answer, and none of us were sure you were right.
Next week will be an interest. Now, I'm not looking ahead. Well, you know what? I am looking a little bit ahead.
Oh, you're just...
Next week will be an interesting one for State High. You get McDevitt back on the schedule. There's so many classics between the two of them. very much looking forward to next week. Not discrediting Carlisle, though. Yes, they've not won a game, but you still got to take care of business.
You're looking ahead. Look at you. Yeah, I'm looking a little bit ahead. You know, it's like, how many years you done this job? All right, yeah.
Well, I don't play on the field either, or I wouldn't be looking ahead. I don't coach, or I wouldn't be looking ahead.
Oh, just.
Oh, I'm sure there's Penn State football media and fans saying, "Hey, Ohio State in 2 weeks."
No, look, I've already had the. I've done enough shows this week.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
guesting on shows. And it's been brought up. And every time it's been brought up, and I said, and I give the same answer every time. I said, look, I said, if you are a member of the media, I said, which you guys are, and I said that, I said, which you guys are, if you are a fan,
Absolutely.
I said, millions of fans across the country. I said, people who are not personally vested,
Yeah.
you know, as a job in the game, in the actual game itself, have the complete luxury and the glory of looking to whatever part of the schedule they want to.
Mm-hmm.
I said, when you're involved
Yeah. You gotta go week
as a coach,
Absolutely.
a player, a staff member, I said, a broadcaster, I said, we don't have the luxury of doing that.
No.
Right? In other words, James can only coach Wisconsin.
Right.
The players can only play Wisconsin. The staff can only get ready for Wisconsin. On the broadcast side, Jack Ham and I,
Yeah.
along with Brian Tripp and Roger and Bob, can only broadcast
That one game.
the Penn State-Wisconsin game. We're not broadcasting Ohio State or whomever is down the road, you know, Washington, Purdue, Minnesota, Maryland, right? So you do get into the week-by-week mode.
Absolutely.
Now, did I take time this week because I had time to update the depth charts of the final 6 opponents? Yes, because I know by taking the time on Wednesday and Thursday to update the other 5, I already have Wisconsin done. Right, so I have Wisconsin done by Monday night. Okay, you know, they'll play a game with Northwestern this week, but I'll be in an updating mode. But their depth chart is done. Okay, by updating those depth charts now, it'll cut down the amount of work I have to do in terms of moving players around, as opposed to updating stats. So I've got the order of the players as of today, which can change, but it won't change where you have to change 20 guys. Because remember, I'm going to be doing basketball at the same time. So I needed to get ahead to make sure I was up to date on the final 5 opponents besides the one coming up with Wisconsin. That way, when I get to those weeks, because in each of those weeks, I've got basketball. So I'm going to do, in order, football, basketball, right? Football, basketball, okay. Then football. Okay. Come back, do basketball. Then do football, basketball, football, then basketball. I mean, that's my month of November to December 1st, because the last one's the Buffalo game I mentioned. Right. So I've got to do 4 football games and 6, 7 basketball games in that span. So I'm going to be constantly getting ready for something. So did I do work ahead this past week to get? Okay, let's just make sure the depth charts are correct here. Ding, 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 ding. Well, at least now I've got the basic orders done, right, that I needed to get down. Okay, that freshman's now playing. That guy got hurt. You know, this guy's now playing in the offensive line. All right, they made some changes here, moved some people around. Right? So I took the time to do that since I had a bye week and had the time. That way, when I get to the week of the game, I can then just concentrate on what I need to concentrate on that week. And the same thing with basketball. Basketball is different because you're talking about 13 to 15 players on a roster, which means you're talking about 26 to 30 players that that you have to get ready for in a particular basketball game, as opposed to 120. The difference. And that's why in this job, when there's the crossover and there's the jump back and forth, you have to stay ahead like that. But now that I've done that, the only thing I'll worry about when I get to Sunday morning is going to be Wisconsin. The only thing I'll worry about the entire week next week is getting ready for Wisconsin, going to practices, checking out video. I'll watch the Northwestern game just to get a feel. I've already seen them play a little bit against USC. I did see their Alabama game. But now I want to see they're playing well. Now it's a chance to see them playing well because I did not look at the Rutgers game that they won. I didn't see the Purdue game either. Now I can, but I figure I'll just watch Northwestern. It'll give me a pretty good read on what they're doing. But that is, you stay up, but you can only do one game at a time. You can only do one game at a time. So I can't jump ahead to go, well, what about, I'll worry about that when they get there. And you don't know what teams look like when you get there. You don't. I mean, Van Dyke's not the quarterback. Ches Malusi is not the tailback. He's not the running back. Right? It's Walker now. He's the tailback. Braden Locke's now the quarterback. See, just on one team, look how they've changed since the beginning of the season. Okay? So, that's why you can't, in what the coaches do and what the players do and the staff does, exponentially more important than what we do. But from our perspective, we're doing the same thing that they're doing. We're taking just the game in front of us. Right? Sounds cliche-ish, but unfortunately, it's a reality. It's not a cliche. Not a cliche. You, on the other hand, already discounting Carlisle, basically backhanding them and looking at who's next after that. That's your big. What's your big? The big one after that?
Carlisle obviously tightened McDevitt at the end of the
Oh,
year.
McDevitt. Yeah. Okay. McDevitt. Right. So you're going to spend most of the Carlisle game talking about McDevitt?
If it's 63-0 in the third quarter, yes. If it's 21-20, no.
Okay.
It's 21-20. Your focus is on the game itself.
Well, see, that's what I've always told my broadcasting class. Remember, every game you start is a blank canvas.
Absolutely.
That you don't know how the painting's going to turn out.
Sure.
That's the fun and the glory of sports. I mean, if you're going to sit down with a blank canvas last night on the Yankees-Guardians game, right? Well, the Yankees jump out to a 1-0 lead. Well, it's pretty much over. They got enough runs. Yeah, they've been dominating the whole series. Oh, Cleveland gets a home run. It's 2-1. Okay. Oh, geez, now it's 3-1. Judge has done nothing for 4 years in the postseason. I mean, really, 4 years. Whoa, painting just changed. Mm-hmm. Stanton is having a great postseason after going 0 for life in the postseason. All right. They lead. And they tack on another run. Well, the painting's just about done now. We're okay. I don't have to worry about, right? And they'll get 3 more outs. It's Joyeux Noel. Right? Noel hits the home run. Now it's going to go to extra innings. Okay? Cleveland gets out of the top of the 10th. And all of a sudden you get to the bottom of the 10th. Fry wins it with a home run. How much did the canvas change over 3.5 hours? So you don't know. That's one of the glorious sports. You don't know what you're going to get. And games that you think are going to be close, it's going to be a close game. And all of a sudden, one way or the other, for whatever reason, it ends up being a blowout. Or an unexpected opponent. Jeez, the longer this game goes, they're gaining in confidence here. What's going on here? I said, I always tell them, I said, prepare every game as if it's going to be a blowout.
Absolutely.
And prepare every game as if it's going to go to the last play,
Sure.
regardless of the opponent. I don't care if it's USC or Kent State. So you prepare every game the same way.
Absolutely.
Because a game is a game. You don't know until you actually see it. You don't know.
Yeah.
Right? You, on the other hand, obviously, already looking ahead, and essentially just blowing off this Carlisle team.
That's thundering early.
You are the one who started this by talking about next week. I don't even think you know who's on the Carlisle team. I mean, I hope they give you a roster. It'll give you a better shot. I mean, you seem to know all about McDivitt.
Well, it's hard not to.
You may be over prepared on McDivitt. My goodness. Meanwhile, Carlisle, you're looking around going, what color are the uniforms? Right? I mean, believe me, I have people that sit in the press box. I mean, I know darn well you walk into the box and look around and go, this is great. Who are we playing? Like, oh.
You know the sad part. The sad part is there are people that come in. Hey, who are they playing? Can I get a picture of that roster? I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like, what the? Do you know what game they sent you to? Now that's 1%. Not even 1%. But it's like, what?
The 2008 Rose Bowl, or 2009, but 2008 season Rose Bowl. I'm walking down the back, going to what our box is going to be. And Mike Tirico comes up, and Mike's like, hey, Steve. And look, I've known Mike for a long time only because Mike started in Syracuse TV with Dave Bullard, who was my college roommate. Okay? So I knew Mike back then. So we're chit-chatting the whole thing. And he says, where are you? I said, well, Mike, I don't have the big ESPN radio job. I said, we're down here. You're in the middle. And he's laughing. Right? So I go into the box, and Jack was there by himself. Right? And I looked over, I said, wow, Jack, look at this place. This is cool. I said, who are we playing? He goes, you're such a jerk. That's really pretty much how you're approaching the game tomorrow night.
No. Tomorrow, not tonight.
Tonight. That's how you're approaching tonight's game. I mean, I can tell. That's how you're approaching tonight's game. It's just, this means nothing to you. I mean, it's like the old, to you, here's the meaning of tonight's game. I think I can simplify it. The great Roy Firestone.
Oh, up close.
Right? Who had that show for years, was brilliant at doing impersonations. And one of the impersonations he did was Keith Jackson.
Oh.
Right? And this is one that fits you tonight. And he's doing his Keith Jackson impersonation. Cottage football. What does cottage football mean to me? About $5 million a year contractually. That's you. That's you. That's you. All you care about tonight, I can tell, is the paper. Right? Has nothing to do. The result is already baked in for you. It's easy. Right? Next week you'll care. It's to you, it's a big game. This isn't a big game to you. This is all about just getting some cash and getting out of there. I'm going to get some paper and leave. Okay? Right? I mean, there you are. There's no depth of carry. Oh, yeah, they'll blow this team out. They don't want a game. They're not good. Listen to you. Remember, you started this. You started this.
Poor Thundering Herd. Yeah, they are 0-8, but they can win a game. They never know.
You never know. You won't know. You'll be like, fourth quarter, you'll be shocked out of your gourd. Like, what the heck? I'm not ready for this. Right? I don't even know who the running back is. Now, next week, you'll be fully engaged. You'll know everything about the fourth string guy coming in the game. I'll tell you right now, he's a great kid who goes out and helps out with food drives. And I can hear you. This week, right? This week he's like, I don't know what he does. I don't even have his stats. Right. I'm just showing up here. Okay. The only reason I'm here tonight, for the State High Carlisle game is I'm Jason Lord, and I'm contractually obligated.
That's right. Contractually obligated to be here. Now let's get this over.
All right, let's get it over with. Let's go. See, this is what I deal with every day with you. Every day.
You talked about
every day. I try to convince you every game is an entity unto itself.
There is.
Every game brings with it its own personality. And as soon as we do the show, I say, what about this week? And the first thing you say is, well, next week they have McDevitt. Right? I didn't ask you about next week. I asked you about tonight.
Yeah. Poor Thundering Herd.
Poor you. Poor Thundering Herd that you're doing the game. You have no depth of caring about them at all. You don't even.
I better have one.
I mean, you have no idea what even offense they run.
Redickus has been there long enough. I definitely know that one.
I mean, come on. Apers, cats.
Yeah.
What's going on here? You just you're just one of those guys, right? One of those guys that just look, I can tell is essentially.
They made the game last year.
Essentially, you can give me all the blah 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 blah. Like, you can't look at the beginning of the conversation. You blew off the fact they were playing the game. You blew them off.
Even Marshall's mad because I blew off a team with the same nickname.
I mean, look at you. It's like, do you listen to anything we talk about in this show? Do you? I mean. Like, you'd sit there and you're like, every time I turn around, it's like, no matter what I talk about, you take the opposite approach.
He did talk about
I mean, I looked at your charts in there. You know what your chart? Did you see your charts? Okay, it's all the McDevitt players. You don't even have Carlisle players on your chart.
No.
You're going to be studying for McDevitt during the game.
I'm ready for Carlisle.
No, you're not. You barely even knew they were here. Cripe.
No, I know they're here because it's only the fourth home game for State High. It feels like the first. Didn't play a lot of home games early on this year. But
and now you're complaining about the job. Every time I turn around, everything's a problem with you.
Oh, no.
You don't know who they're playing.
I know they're playing.
No, you thought they were playing McDevitt when we started out. The first thing you said next week they play McDevitt. It's like you acted like it was a bye week.
I knew they had this week.
You act like it's a bye week.
But
Golly, what the heck are you
there have
doing?
been some winless teams that State High has played. CD East most notably, not this year. But there are many
Stop
times.
trying to make up for
That's
it.
right. Try my
Stop trying to make up for it.
my best.
Look,
But they
okay,
have,
you started out in a 6-foot hole. It's up to about 20 now.
14.
Oh, God, just crushing.
You talked about, just real quick, you talked about Keith Jackson. I never saw, well, first of all, one of my absolute favorites of all time, no question. You go to the Notre Dame Stadium, 2006. Penn State obviously plays there. It's a game Penn State fans want to forget about the game itself. But the Friday of, Keith Jackson spoke. And granted, we're in a different era now than we even were then. But one of the few times I did not see any cell phones out, did not see anything, just all eyes, completely attentive to what he was talking about. They just absolutely showed the respect level that he has, and I will never forget that. And obviously told the story, the famous one about Joe Pa. Mother wanted a doctor, Daddy wanted a lawyer, an engineer, and all they got was a legend.
That's how I describe you.
That's right.
Your mother wanted to ship you off to Elmira. Your dad wanted to ship you off to Pottsville. And all we got was a legend.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, have a great weekend. Enjoy your McDevitt game once you get to it.
Yep.
Thanks. Everybody else have fun this weekend. We had fun today.